For this last video, I would like to discuss with you what's going to happen when you go up the levels of efficiency. When you will be practicing those exercises and you will get better at this skill. What's going to happen in your interaction? To answer this question, we're going to use the analogy of chess. I see this video as a bonus. You don't really have to watch it, but it will be incredible if you watch it. However, you need to have understandings about chess already. At least know how to play it. If you don't, just hit pause on this video and go on YouTube or whatever, watch a quick video of how to play chess. It will be like 10 minutes and someone will explain to you what are the fundamentals, how do you move the pieces, what is the goal. So then you can come back on this video and understand the analogies, because of course for this analogy we're going to go back from the beginning of chess, when you're a complete beginner, which I'm still are. I'm kind of a beginner at chess, but I've been through the first levels, the very first, and so I could see the analogies with social interaction. And so we're going to do that together. May you be an excellent chess player or just a complete beginner. We're going to go back through the first thing that happened in your brain when you start playing and you get better, so that we can take this analogy for social interaction. So to start with this analogy, the goal in an interaction, let's say in chess it's to get the king in a mate position. In an interaction, when you talk with someone, as we explained in the small talk part, the goal would be to go more profoundly into the map of identity, into those topics, and merge your map of identity with their map of identity, and then go back and then go down the level of depth of this map of identity. We've talked about that. This would be equivalent to here in chess, getting closer to putting the opposite king in a mate position. In the game of chess, that's what you're heading for. However, this is not the real goal of the game, right? There is a hierarchy of goals. In anything we do in chess, it's the same. The goal is to get the king in a mate position. But doesn't this goal only exist in order to meet a higher priority goal? Isn't this goal subordinated to a higher goal? Yes, it is. Why does even the game exist? Why do we even want to get to this position of checkmate? Why do we even want to beat the opponent? Why? Why does this goal even exist? Just so that we can enjoy and have fun. The problem is that with almost anything in life, things get screwed and we forget the main goal. We switch them. And so then you play chess and you can get angry because you don't succeed or you lose. But basically you've just forgotten that the only reason why you want to win is because it allows you to enjoy. You're creating this dynamic of opposition just so that each of you can enjoy the game. If we would like to make an analogy with spiritual teaching, such as Buddhist teaching or whatever, it's not that important. It would be the same analogy. It would be like, okay, we exist just so that we can enjoy the game of life, but because we forget the main point of it, we get tangled into really needing to meet our goal, into needing to be right, into needing to be safe, into needing to even survive. That goes that far. And the idea is that it's because we forgot the higher goal. It's exactly with chess. The higher goal of chess even existing is just to enjoy. But if we forget it, now we get invested in it. Now we get angry. We suffer if we don't win. Let's go back to the analogy with social interactions. In terms of social interaction, the goal would be to go closer to the center of this map of identity. Not only the center, but as well in the depth. Alright? The problem is that if we forget why even this goal exists, then we get screwed up. And this is how most people end up, for example, doing small talk in a way that goes nowhere, in a way that makes no sense. It's because it's not only that they forget why it is this way, it's because they've never even been aware. They've just seen people doing it. So they think, well, that's what I should do in order to look normal, to not look weird. But they never get aware of why this idea of small talk, of interaction, of talking about this topic, even has been created as a game at first by the first good conversationalist ever. That's how it got created. It's like chess. The highest level conversationalists of the past, they've ended up with those discoveries that, well, do you think that at the time of the cavemen, okay, alright, they couldn't even speak, but you get my point. Do you think they had social interaction that are fun or whatever? No, it should have been very efficient. Like, okay, you get to hunt and get the water, get the food, that's it. Then somehow with time, some people, they started to realize, well, we can draw happiness from it. We can talk about some topics and it will create happiness in our minds. And from there, all of it starts. And then they discover that in order to optimize this, to make this as pleasurable as possible, we can set those kind of goals so that it creates not only a game, but also a game which goes in a direction which itself creates happiness, such as going toward the center of the map of identity and getting the depth of the information at the same time. But right, if you confuse this goal for the end goal, if you confuse this goal for a reason to be in itself, then things get completely screwed up. We always have to remember why even this game exists. This game exists just because it's a way to get pleasure, to enjoy. And so in this case, don't get lost into beating the opponent, into getting to the checkmate position. Like with chess, what's the point of starting a game, suffering during the whole game, and then that's it. The game is finished, but that's just a game. Why did it make you suffer? The goal was to enjoy. This is what happens, let's say, when you get, I think, very high level player at chess. I'm not, but I guess it becomes like your job, for example, or whatever. And now you get really invested. Now you're going to tournaments. Now you play games where for hours, maybe you're in a state of suffering, I don't know. Maybe sometimes they enjoy, sometimes they are in suffering. This is the same with social interaction. We get invested in social interaction because now it's not just a game. It's linked to our ego. It's linked to being perceived as high value. It's linked to being perceived as someone that has status. It's linked to getting things from people that we want. So now this is exactly like a person who likes chess but who gets invested in it as a professional career. That's a bit like what we've been doing with social interaction. It's meant to be something pleasurable, but it became like a career, something that allows us to get more important stuff out of it. For example, our ego gratification, getting relationship with people, even maybe getting a job or whatever, but actually to become efficient at getting the side effect of social interaction. We need to put all the hierarchy of goals back in order, back in place. You play chess not because you want to win, but because setting your mind around the goal of winning is a way to create happiness in your mind. That's why even this goal of winning exists. You want to go toward the center of the map of identity because having this goal in mind in itself allows your mind to create a neuronal pattern which generates happiness, right? This goal has no point in itself. It's just that having this goal will create a pattern in your mind which generates happiness. But if it happens to do the opposite, then we lost track of the primary goal from which this game even exists. Alright, so you'll be playing this game. You want to get to the center of the maps of identity. In order to do that, you have some skills that you can use that we've seen. Pivot. You want to use pivots. You want to get to new topics by using pivots. You have a topic, to take an element out of it, or a whole, whatever, which is the pivot. Then you do again the same, and you get a new topic. That's basically the main skill we have. And let's say that depending on which topic you choose and in which way you go, it will lead to different patterns, right? That's what you will tend to notice. Let's associate those patterns with the different pieces. Let's say that the main basic topic, like the small talk, let's say that small talk, this is the equivalent of the pawns, the little pawns, which are not very efficient. They can be, and of course, small talk is key. Without small talk, the other pieces, they actually are kind of weak. Here is the same. Without the pawns, the higher pieces are kind of weak. Do you see the point? So small talk is important. But small talk only leads to giving power to the more important topic. It leads to allow them to be. Let's take a basic example. I'm not going to respect the entire pattern of a game, right? Because that's not the point. I want to isolate dynamics so that you understand at a beginner level what's going on, and then we will see in the entire pattern of the game what's going on, the entire pattern of the conversation. Let's take an example. For example, you have your knight, and for whatever reason, you won't need to be here, alright? It's not going to happen in the game because you would have to do something like this and this, but let's say you want to put it here. We don't care about the context. Forget about the context. Let's isolate dynamics. For whatever reason, you would like it to be here, alright? So for example, in an interaction, it would be that for whatever reason you would like to... Okay, let's go a bit further and talk about things that you would see if you take the dating product. For whatever reason, you would like to escalate sexually, which would correspond to having your knight here, alright? You would like to be able to do this. But let's say that here there is not this pawn, it's here, okay, right? And so the bishop can take your king, which would mean in social interaction, in dating interaction, that for example, the fact that this bishop can take your knight, it would be associated with, for example, the idea that maybe if you escalate, she will interpret it as okay, basic stuff, she will interpret it as he just wants to have sex, for example. We're isolating dynamics. So now you're like, okay, I want to escalate, but she might think, he just wants to have sex. And now it would screw the entire pleasure of the game, because now there's no pleasure, she's defensive. It makes, it's not smooth. And so remember, for example, if we associate the game of winning with having sex, if it's what you want, if you want to get married, it's good. If you want to have sex, it's good. Everything is good. You're just setting games. You want to have sex. Now she thinks, he just wants to have sex. But she's misinterpreting kind of what's going on. Now the game becomes screwed up. You have to change game. You have to... It just doesn't make sense. It's not pleasurable anymore. So you're like, well, that might not be a good move, so I'm not going to escalate. However, if, let's say, you had this point here before, this pawn, then it might not be a good idea to do this, right? Because right after, you will hit back. It's a bit more complex than that when you see the game in the complete picture, but we're isolating dynamics. So what would it look like in the analogy of an interaction? It would look like, okay, for example, this pawn would be, what would it be? Okay, for example, I'm isolating dynamics, so it would not actually work like this in an interaction, but we're isolating. It would be, for example, really having shown interest beforehand. For example, stupid example, it's isolated once again. You're in a nightclub, you see a woman that you like, you go, you approach her, you talk, and you start escalating, but you've not really shown interest before. That's the kind of situation where she might think, well, he just wants to have sex, right? However, However, if before escalating you've shown interest, even a lot of interest, okay, it would be the equivalent of having this pawn here, right? You've shown a lot of interest. So that now, if you escalate, so you put it here, the escalation is protected by the fact that you've shown interest, and so she's not going to think, well, he just wants to have sex, he could do it with any other woman, he doesn't see anything else than sex in me. Your move of escalating is protected by the context that you've set before escalating, right? So in the game of chess, the same thing happens. You will want to have some pieces, for example, this one here, but you're like, okay, it's going to get eaten. So before putting it, I will play this move, they will do whatever else, and then I will come here. And now it's protected. You see the idea? So there is this pattern. But in order to think about that, it takes a lot of mental capacity. It makes you very unnatural. It makes you calculative. It can look manipulative. It's like manipulation. How do you deal with that? Well, it's exactly with chess. At first, thinking about this strategy, it will require a lot of time. That's why you have a timer at chess. Whoa, how am I going to go there? I want to go here. I want to do this strategy. You need time to think about it. Now, in an interaction, it would be the same as being unnatural. It would be the same as being sneaky, manipulative, thinking too much. All right? It can be argued, but you get my point. The real problem in it at the end of the day, that's not really that you're planning your moves in advance. That's not really that. The real problem in the fact that you're thinking and taking time to rationally think about it instead of having it coming naturally, the real problem about it is just that it kills the main goal of the entire interaction, which is to enjoy. That's the only problem actually. If for whatever reason, those ideas, they come instantly in your mind, then it would make no difference to just make one move or to think about two moves. If the two moves, they come to your mind at the same speed than you take one move, then it doesn't kill any enjoyment to make the two moves instead of one, to predict the two moves instead of just one. And at this moment, this is what we call chunking. Your brain will chunk those two moves into one. And so where before you would be needing, for example, 3 units of psychological time to think about, well, do I do this, or do I do this? Because now you're getting more experience, your brain is chunking this information. And so with the same 3 units of psychological time, you will be able to think not only do I do this, or this, but do I do this? Do I do this? Or do I do this? Okay, I'm taking stupid examples, but with the same units of psychological time, you would have all those ideas that come. And if you get even more evolved, what will happen is that it's not only this, it will be like, do I do this? Or do I do this? Or do I do this? I'm taking stupid examples. It doesn't even make sense if you play a real game, but you get the idea. I'm isolating. And so it will take the same time in your mind to think about this move. If your opponent, they are having the same speed as you have, their mind is chunking at the same level, the information, than yours, then you're actually experiencing the same kind of mental thinking that you would when you're a complete beginner versus a beginner, thinking, do I play this or this? And him the same, do I answer this or this? Okay, right? Now it will take the same psychological time for both of you to think, well, do I go like this and he will answer this? In this case, I do this and then I play this. And and then he will do this, but then maybe I will go there or whatever. I'm doing stupid shit here. And all of this will count for 1 unit of psychological time. It will take the same mental space, the same time for you to think about all these movements as when you were a beginner to just think, do I do this? It will take the same space in your mind. Now, what's cool with social interaction is that we naturally practice it. Most people are average at it. I used to be horrible at it, but we all have some experience with it. We've all been practicing it. So almost everybody has some level of mastery over it and can play as an interestingly high level, right? And so when you'll be talking with someone, for example, you just meet someone, you're at a party, at an event, whatever, you're talking business or whatever, I don't really care. It's the same in any case. And where at the beginning, for example, you just saw this masterclass, you started practicing the exercises today, it will look something like this. Okay, right, the conversation is going. What pivot will I use? Okay, if I take this pivot here and I go to this topic. Okay, is it helping me? Is it making me enjoy? Is it going where I want? Actually, you have no idea. The game is too complex for you. You have no idea. However, what you can do instead of asking this question is, okay, I have no idea if it's a good move or not, but what are the other moves I can do? So maybe I can take this pivot instead and go into this topic. Right. And basically that's what you'll be practicing with the exercises. It's okay, I'm going to take the same pivot and see all the different moves that I can do. So for example, with this pivot, I can do this move or this move, which means I can go to this topic or this topic. And you do 3 times. And so what you're training your mind to do with these exercises is that at every time that it's your turn to play, your mind will take 3 different pivots. So, okay, let's take arbitrarily this one, and this one, okay? And for each of them, find 3 topics that I can get with it. So with this one, I can go here, I can go here. Okay, it's chess, so there is not 3, it's not infinite possibilities, but it gets more infinite when you get higher levels. With this one, it will be here or here. And you're a beginner, you're just training the basic move, the basic skills. You don't know where it's going, but you know you need those skills in order to be going somewhere later. As you're getting more momentum, as you're doing this, as first you're getting more experience with time, but as well as you're getting momentum within the interaction, within the exercises, what will happen is that what beforehand required you 9 units of time, 9 units of thinking to get all those information. Okay, if I take this pivot, I can go here, here, here. If I take this one, I can take this topic, this topic, this topic. This one, this topic, and this topic. It took 9 units of time and maybe even more if you really don't have any momentum and you're struggling. You get momentum, you get experience with time. Now, this whole process will take at some point only 1 unit of time in your mind. So with the same time that before it took you to think, well, will I take this pivot and go to this topic? With the same time that it took you to do this, you will be thinking, well, if I'm considering all of those moves, what's going on? Boom. All those moves in your mind, it's chunked into one information. Boom. One thought, you have all those positions that appear in your mind. That's what's going to happen with the topics. You'll be talking with someone, they will be saying something, and boom, you have like 9 topics that appear. 3 pivots, and for each one, 3 topics. It's not going to be 3 all the times, but we're training with this because it's optimal. It will be 5 pivots and 3 topics here, 1 here, 5 here, 3 here. You get the point. But it will happen in 1 unit of time. Your mind will just be like, it's as if you have a picture of a map of all the different topics where each one goes, and it takes 1 unit of time. With chess, it's the same. Okay, it's my time to play. Boom, you have all the ideas of the different combinations, the basic with time that will happen. Okay, boom, boom. You know this position with time, you're like, yeah, it takes 1 unit of time. So you're thinking it's my time to play. Do I go in this position? It takes 1 unit of time. Or will I instead go in this position? They might do this, I will do this, they will take up, and then whatever, I will go here, I don't care. You get to this position, it takes the same time. It would have taken you 2 units of time to think about all of this. Do I go in the first position or on this one? What am I heading for? With interaction, it will be the same. Your mind will think, okay, do I go into this direction of the map or do I go in this direction of the map? And each move will not be seen anymore as just one topic, but as a web of topics. Do I go into this web of topics or into this web of topics? And this is the level where interaction really becomes enjoyable. At the same Exactly the same as chess really becomes enjoyable when you start to have this global vision where you're not like, okay, do I move this piece or this piece, but do I go into this position or into this position? Do I go into this web of pieces or into this web of pieces? And it will be the same. Now that you have this speed, you apply the same exercises to this speed. Do I go in this web of position and in this one, which would be a pivot? Do I go then into this web of position or into this one or into this one? But if I took the other web, which would be a new pivot, do I go into this web of positions or this web of position or this one? And you will have your 9 new topics like this, which are not topics anymore, but webs of topics. And this is where the game really gets interesting. This is why you really have to train the exercises for the entire month, every day. It's like learning chess. You might have some intuitions at chess at the beginning. Okay, I kind of see where it's going and you're playing it however you want, but you'll be limited because when you get to those higher levels of thinking, of perceiving the game, of seeing the game, you're going to be limited because your foundation are not set in a way that allows you to really expand your perceptions. You'd be limited. It's not going to be as exponential as it could be. And so when you get into interaction where you don't have this vision, your mind is not that fast, always do the same. Start with lower level speed. So you just, like when you're intermediate at chess, when you're not very advanced, which is not my case. I'm still a kind of beginner at chess. So I play chess the same way that I would tell you to play social interaction if you were my student. I would teach you those fundamental skills that I just taught you in this masterclass. And then I would tell you just practice building momentum within the game, within the interaction, so that as the game unfolds, you get more and more momentum and you get more powerful. So it's not even about memorizing positions. It's not even about thinking properly said. It's more about meta thinking. Thinking about how you will think. Thinking about where your thinking itself is going to go, is going to evolve. So at the beginning, you'll be like, okay, I have absolutely no idea what to talk about. For example, you're going for a date. You don't know what to say. You just arrive. You feel awkward. You don't know where it's going, right? You play it like with the chess. Okay, I have no idea where it's going. I feel completely lost, but let's just build momentum. So, okay, I could take this pivot and go here. Actually, I have nothing else that comes. I really have a way too low speed of thinking. So let's just play it. And so you talk about it. Then how you talk about it, it's what makes it different than chess. There's even more subtlety, but it's up to you. You will just ask a random question. Something even completely stupid. How was your day? It's a completely shitty question. In the same way that playing a random move without knowing where it's going, it's a completely shitty move as well. But in the context of the entire party, this is what's going to be optimal and what will make you not only win and maybe not win, but that's what's going to actualize the real ultimate goal, which is to enjoy. It's going to build up your thinking. So the person will answer something. Now you're like, okay, Now what are the pivots I can use? Oh, now my mind has a bit more momentum, so I can think better. I can do this, or even this, or even this. So now I have more momentum. If you had more momentum, you could even think further. For example, if I do this move, he might do this, he might do this, he might do this, and oh, if he does this, well, now I'm in struggle. I can go here, I will get fucked. So this actually would not be a good move. But that's if you're thinking further. If you still not have this momentum, it's not going to happen, and don't force it to happen. Think about doing the moves of your actual levels of speed of thinking so that it builds. Start with stupid shit, small talk, so that it builds. And then you can get more efficient at the fundamental skills, which are using pivots, so that then you can navigate the map of identity with more flexibility, with more awareness of the entire webs of topics that are being created. So now you're playing the game efficiently. So instead of thinking, well, I'm going to memorize the maps of identity so I know where to go in each interaction and I just have to go into my memory to find it. No, no, it would be like learning chess in this way. I've read a book about chess which is called All the Fundamental Opening of Chess, and in the beginning of the book, the author was saying that actually there is a debate in the chess community. Should we memorize as much opening as possible, or should we not really do it and focus on building this flexibility in your mind so that no matter where you arrive, even if you don't know, even if you've not studied what can happen from those positions, you have the meta skills of knowing how to deal with this unknown situation. Actually, you need both. That was the conclusion. But then he said something at the end. He said a quote, which I don't remember where it comes. It comes from even another book. But this quote was, "Him who lives by the sword will die by the sword," which is a metaphor for the one who plays the game by memory will lose because his memory will fail. Because he will get to position where he gets fucked. He's not studied them. He's going to not be able to predict some variation that he's not studied, and he's going to get fucked in those angles, in those blind spots. The same is going to happen if you want to lead your interaction, your social interaction, by memory. This is why, if you were my student, I would forbid you completely to use your memory. I will forbid you to say twice the same thing to two different people. That's not really what's going on, because the basics are going to be similar, but at least you will need to try every time to say new stuff, which is completely possible at high level. It's like with chess. Every single game is different, right? Maybe the beginning is kind of similar, and even that you want to change it. You want to try crazy bold move, even the stupid move which no one does because you get fucked. You try them and you see where it goes. And by doing that, you will have a way better strategy than memorizing everything, which is going to kill you. It's going to kill your interaction. Don't memorize the moves. Memorize how to think in order to find the moves. And make this become stronger in you. Don't build up your knowledge about what are the different paths that you can take. Build your ability to find new paths on the spot. That's what you want. You build it with the foundation, which is the exercises I've given you, from which all the rest will be like a fractal. All the game will unfold from this indefinitely until the highest levels. And then within that, you will have higher level rules. For example, in chess, you know that you want to first make all your pieces go out. You want to connect your rooks as fast as possible. Oops, that's what you want. You want to connect them. That's some rules that come out of studying the game. You want to dominate the center as fast as possible. There's going to be a fight at the center. You don't want to move twice the same pieces because you're losing time in your development. Those kind of ideas. This is higher level rules. But when you're memorizing those rules, you're not memorizing paths, you're memorizing how to find paths. And then even those rules, they will become subordinated to higher level rules. If you're interested in those higher level rules, then it will require way more than such a masterclass, which once again will be about the dating product inside which you will find everything you want, as if you want to become a master of chess. Here we're talking about the fundamentals to become good at it, but if you want to become a fucking master, you will need to study the higher level strategies, which are not about memorizing any path, but way more about becoming completely independent from any path and knowing how to deal with any possibility, because you're following high level rules, higher level, which we would call principle actually, and from there you would become a fucking beast. But all of this doesn't work without the fundamentals. You don't build the higher principles without the fundamentals. You need those fundamentals because all that comes after, even the higher level principles, they come out of those fundamentals. And for example, such a higher level principle, such a higher level rule would be the maps of identity, what I explained to you. The maps of identity, you want to go to the center and to the depth. That would be to the skill of pivoting, what we would call a higher rule, a higher level rule, a higher principle. You are using this fundamental skill of pivoting inside this principle of going toward the center of the map of identity and to the depth. You're subordinating this fundamental skill of the entire fractal to this direction. And there is way more profound and higher level principles and direction you can take. This is really the beginning of the mastery of this game, which is the social life. This is really the beginning of what we've seen here. But well, it's still way more than a lot of people know and have been practicing. And this will be enough to get you a solid intermediate player of this game actually. Now if you want to become a fucking beast, a fucking monster, well, we're going to need to go way deeper than what we've seen here. But well, that's not for everybody, maybe you're not interested in that, so let's keep with it and let's just practice it. And you will become an extremely solid intermediate player.